you watching at home on WCRH can call in your questions at 285-2727, while those of you in the studio audience may pose written questions to the SGA representatives seated behind me. We'll begin by introducing this year's slates, starting with the Jones slate seated to my right. Presidential candidate Greg Jones is the SGA Director of Positive Norming, as well as the President of the Tishner-Train Hall Council. Greg Jones. Dustin Sparks, the Vice Presidential candidate, is involved in the Tishner-Train Hall Council, as well as activities within his major. Alicia Stafford is the secretarial candidate. She is the National Communications Coordinator for the Residence Hall Association and a member of Kappa Delta. And Georgina Mayfia Coffey, the treasurer candidate, is the treasurer for the Black Student Association, as well as the Diversity and Multicultural Affairs Director for BSA. SGA, I'm sorry. The Greg Jones slate. And now for the Davidson slate. Presidential candidate Jamey Davidson has been SGA Vice President, as well as the Vice President of Delta Tau Delta. Vice Presidential candidate Nick Bolton is an SGA off-campus senator and was also the Vice President of Sigma Chi. Meredith McLee has been Secretary of Residence Hall Association, as currently an RA in Mish-Hurst. Meredith McLee is the secretarial candidate. The candidate for treasurer is Kelly Huber. She is an off-campus senator and also the Vice President of Alpha Chi Omega. The Jamey Davidson slate. Let us now explain the rules for this evening's debate. There will be a 2-minute opening statement from each side, and then questions will be posed directed at either one of the slates or at one of the candidates in particular, or perhaps either the treasurer candidates, the secretarial candidates, the vice president, or presidential candidates. Some questions will also be general questions, which each candidate will have an opportunity to respond to. 1 minute will be the allotted time for each directed question, with the opposing slate receiving 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Any general question will receive 1 minute per candidate or per slate. Then, following those questions, we'll have a 2-minute closing statement. We'll begin with the questions at this time. May I please have the first question? This is a general question for each slate. What is the most important part of your platform? We'll begin with the Davidson slate. You have 1 minute. Oh, so I'm sorry. Opening statements, you do have 2 minutes.
We came together as a slate in October, wanting programs that were geared toward all students. Students will benefit academically and financially through our programs. Some students believe that SGA doesn't do anything for them. We plan to change that. We are trying to show students that we have a clearly defined purpose and have leadership experience to implement these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. And now an opening statement from the Jones slate.
Honesty, change, empowerment. They're not just our ideas, they're our actions. We bring straight up and honest, straightforward with the students. Change, that's what we're already doing. We're already making some changes. Hopefully March 1st and 2nd is when the real changes come. Empowerment, that's the ultimate goal. To bring SGA back to the students. That's what we're all about. We want to make SGA a student-run organization again. All of us here love the university. We love Ball State. We feel if you love an organization, you're not afraid to question it, and you leave it better than when you found it. We hope to make it a debate tonight and not an agreeing on the issues. We feel so often everybody's up here saying, yeah, I think that's a good issue. Yeah, I think that's a good issue. We hope to bring up some issues that may be a little bit controversial. Anybody can put on a suit and tell you what you want to hear. Up here you have 2 very different slates, and we represent 2 entirely different things. We hope to make that very clear today. The one thing we do have in common is experience. Everybody up here is very qualified for the jobs they're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now begin with the questions. The first question is an open question for each slate. What is the most important part of your platform? We'll begin with the Jones slate. One representative, you have 1 minute.
Change, to use that word. Right now, we don't feel SGA is a very very representative of the students. Yeah, some students get their voice heard, but the majority of students don't. That's our big plan, is to bring SGA back to the students. We could tell you like a bunch of little ideas, incentive plans to like make this happen, or even little service programs. But we feel any slate that gets elected will do that. Will do those jobs as part of their job. Change, bringing SGA back to the students.
Thank you. The Davidson slate. 1 minute.
We believe the most important part of our platform is the platform in its entirety. It's not catered to a certain group of individuals. We didn't go out looking to cater votes from certain student groups, from the residence halls, from off campus, but we looked at issues like financial problems, academic problems. Those are things that all students have in common. When we talk about change, Greg wants to talk about change today. Last year, we had 10 seats to the Student Government Association, so that every person with a decent population in Ball State will have their voice heard. So we believe the change has started in the last 2 years, and these people are coming in at great times. Whoever wins this election is going to come in at a great time with the idea to implement programs. We believe we have concrete programs and not just words. Thank you.
This question is directed at Greg Jones. Would you change the time Senate is held in order to get more students to attend Senate meetings?
I haven't really considered that as much of an issue right now. 3:15 has been the normal time for the Senate the last couple of years. I know a couple of years ago we had a problem with some of the senators making it at that time, and so they changed the time for them to make it so they could get out of class in time. I think that would be an excellent idea now that it's been brought up to change the time if it's needed, if students will be there. I know some of our plans are including taking the Senate to different places on campus other than just the student center that is kind of located off to the side currently.
A rebuttal.
Yes, I think what happens is if we want to get consistency here, we know that Senate meets, or the people that involve the Senate, and Senate meets for the general public the same time, the same day, all week long. One day we changed the room that we meet in on the same building down a floor. We had problems with attendance, people were late, and people were tardy. Looking at the time, if it's a better time, that's feasible, but moving the actual location of the meeting, I would question, because right now we have problems getting attendance if we move the meeting room in this very same building. So that's rebuttal.
Thank you. This question is directed at the vice presidential candidates. What do you see as your role in Senate, and what do you see as the main problem in the Student Senate? We'll begin with Mr. Bolton. You have 1 minute.
The Vice President's role in the Senate is the person who looks over the actual Senate meetings. This includes a vast majority knowledge of parliamentarian procedure, as well as they work pretty hands-on with the senators regarding legislation and other such things as that. They also are involved with the Executive Committee as far as carrying out legislation, and are obviously a visible student body representative for the university.
Mr. Sparks.
Yeah, an important job of the vice president is to run the Senate and run it in an orderly fashion. A problem I see with the Senate is the lack of students there. Students don't know that they have a voice a lot of times, and what we're pushing for is to have more student involvement in the Senate. And I think some of the things we're pushing for would allow that to happen.
Thank you. This question is directed at both the treasurer and secretarial candidates from each slate. What qualifications do you have for your position? We'll begin with Ms. McLee.
I'm currently an RA in Mishurst Hall and was the former secretary of the Residence Hall Association. Besides that, I've also been I was a manager in a store that helped me build my organizational skills, which I think will qualify me wonderfully for this position.
We'll go over to the secretarial candidate, Alicia Stafford.
I think the secretary is about doing a lot of different things, and I feel like I have a lot of diverse experience. I'm good with handling a lot of paperwork. Being NCC, I have to take minutes for myself at state, regional, and national business meetings, from anything as small as 15 to something as large as 800. I also have to register conference delegations. I'm used to handling a lot of paperwork. I've worked in retail for 3 years. I'm used to handling people. I'm used to exchanging money and doing basically a lot of different tasks, and I think I have a lot of good communication skills, which I think a secretary needs to be, because she needs to be a resource as well.
Now to the treasurer candidates, Kelly Huber.
First of all, I would be qualified because I am currently an off-campus senator, so I do have background in SGA. I also have taken numerous courses in accounting and statistics that would help me in managing the budget, and I'm also very organized and have good time management skills.
Thank you. Georgina, and it may be a coffee.
I am now currently the BSA treasurer, which means I handle 4 accounts, and so I am well qualified to handle over 10 accounts and $66,000. I work at the front desk for my dorm, which is how I call, and in that perspective, I do handle money during situations. And I also have had training, even though I'm not a marketing major, an accounting major, or anything like that. I do have experience and background. I am a director of SGA right now, Diversity and Multicultural Affairs, as well as a former freshman senator.
Thank you. The next question is also a 1-minute question directed at the presidential candidates. What do you feel is the role of the president to SGA and to this campus? Mr. Davidson.
Well, the president of any organization sort of sets the tone, and they lay out the groundwork for the organization. There's going to be, like when ideas come in, they're going to be your ideas. They're going to be, you're the person that's going to set the lead, set the example, set the tone for the organization. If the president comes in unorganized, comes in without a purpose, without clearly defined ideas, the organization is going to take on that role. 2 years ago, Jeremy Gregg came up with the ideas. He's going to tell Senate what their job is, and that was legislation. This year, Jesse Owen decided he was going to make the executive department much more efficient and to add seats to the Student Government Association. So we're coming in at a good time. We have a lot of meaningful programs, a lot of services all students can use, and we're very excited about that. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
The question was, what is the role of the president? I don't think necessarily the presidency is a role that you play. I think it's not something to make you look good on a resume, and it's not something to make you look good in the eyes of your peers. It's a job, and it should be taken seriously. I think leading the Senate, leading the SGA, leading the students, both by example and by our ideas. I think this is all very important. I think we also have to fight the battles that need to be fought. I know earlier Jamey was quoted as saying, "We can only do what we can do." And I kind of am not taking on that attitude. I think we should fight the fight that needs to be fought, and not necessarily the fight that we know we can win.
Thank you. Once again, if people in our studio audience have questions, you may pose them to the SGA representatives behind me, and they will screen those questions and forward them to me. And also, if you're watching at home, you can call in at 285-2727 with your questions for this year's candidates. On to the next question for the Davidson slate. One of your platform issues is technology. Would you please explain how you plan to promote and increase technology?
Technology is one of our platforms. We have a couple programs that are very much involved with technology. The first one is called The Source. The Source is a program that will serve as an internet resource site where students can log on, use the web, and voluntarily put evaluations of professors on the site. Students will be able to review these pre-screened evaluations and get a feel for professors. This Source is a relatively easy program to implement. It's very feasible and can be up and running relatively easily. The next program we have, which deals with technology, is called the Book Exchange. The Book Exchange is a program that we modeled after a similar program at another university. What this program does is it offers students the ability to post and search for used books on the website of the student government page and undercut or meet prices cheaper than local bookstores. By doing this, students save a lot of money, and it makes things a lot easier for those going through financial difficulties. It's something very applicable for all students and can be used by everyone.
Time. Thank you. A rebuttal, please.
Well, as many of you know, Greg Jones and I are both computer science majors at Ball State University, so obviously we're already on the cutting edge of technology, and those are some good ideas, but I don't really think a page where students can log on and possibly bash a professor is a good idea. I think it would be good to maybe put up the student evaluations maybe at the end of the year. I don't agree with that. I believe that we can use the internet a lot more than what's used now to let people read about the SGA and possibly give us feedback. I know the Davidson slates talked about that some, and I think those are all good ideas. Thank you.
The next question is directed toward the treasurer candidates. How do you feel about the current co-sponsorship regulations, and how do you feel they could be enhanced? We'll begin with Ms. Amafia Coffey.
Right now, I feel that co-sponsorship, not enough students know about the fact that they can get money from SGA. It's a very good idea that we use co-sponsorship because there's a lot of money out there. The problem is a lot of people don't want it sponsored by SGA, and that's a major concern. And the best way to work it out is just to talk to the treasurer and talk to the treasurer of each organization and just come up with a way to figure it out. It's very good, and the regulations are perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Huber.
I also agree that students should be more aware of the co-sponsorship. It is a very good program, and the regulations right now I think are very good. I think that they should gear out more towards co-sponsorship programs that would get more students involved. Thank you.
This is a general question for each slate. What does the word unity mean to you, specifically in terms of ethnic and cultural diversity? The Davidson slate.
Unity is something that this slate prides itself on at the current time. We've been together for a long time. We've researched our ideas. We talked to a lot of people. We've got ideas that are good for the whole campus. That's what unity means to us. We don't think that catering to certain individuals is what unity means. Unity is something that it comes socially. It doesn't come through programs. Unity comes through meeting people, knowing people in your circle of friends, outside your circle of friends. We hope that the new student center that they're proposing could lead to more unity. It's happened at George Mason University, and we think it could happen at this university. We do find a major concern with the Jones slate. They were formed 2 days ago, their last person, so we're not sure that they're concise and unified on their ideas, since we haven't heard very many concise ideas besides moving Senate. Thank you.
Representative.
What unity means to us is everyone, togetherness. And one of the things that we are going to emphasize on definitely are the 10 seats within the new seats within SGA, as well as going out to other organizations, including sports and recreation and performing arts. That's a possibility too. And just getting feedback and word about what's going on in the community. It's not only Ball State, it's Muncie. We share this community with Muncie. And I feel that it's been segregated for a long time, and we need to come together as a community. We are in Muncie, Indiana. We represent Muncie, and so that is also I believe that's unity. Thank you.
A question now for the Jones slate. In the Daily News, you said you wanted to get back to SGA's main purpose. What do you feel is SGA's main purpose, and why has SGA strayed away from it?
We feel SGA's main purpose is to represent the students. We feel that it has strayed from this. Again, I mean, there's an on-campus caucus, off-campus, at-large, and soon to be an organizational caucus. We feel these are good, but I don't think the senators necessarily go out and represent their constituents as well as they should. This is a very large campus. We're 18,000 strong. I think the majority of the students do not feel represented, and they feel disconnected from the university. And I think that's our main goal. I mean, if we can get one thing done or one thing across tonight and for the rest of the week is to say, let SGA get back to the students. Let it be student-run, student-represented, and then I think that'd be getting back to the roots.
Thank you.
SGA's purpose, in my opinion, is obviously to represent all students. If you look at the last year over Senate, we've done a lot of great things. Rules like the organizational caucus, which gives a better representation of those who maybe in the past, because of different reasons, haven't had a strong voice in Senate. I think that legislation that passed was a huge move, and we've definitely started moving in the right direction. There's, of course, many improvements still to be made, but we're definitely on a strong foot. One thing I'd also like to say, the role of Senate, is to, obviously, through a program we have called the Student Voice, is a way to have students be able to relay concerns, questions, ideas, and programs directly to student government. Use this through our technology platform will allow us to get a better feel for what the students need, want, and desire. And I would disagree. I think the Senate's up and up, and it's very well on its way. But still more change is needed.
This question is once again directed at the vice presidential candidates. What do you perceive is your role on the judicial court? We'll begin with Mr. Bolton once again.
My role is on judicial court. Judicial court, for those who don't know, is a body that hears cases where there's violations of student codes on students with student codes. I know in the past, talking to Jamey, who served on quite a few, he says he runs into a lot of it's a very traumatic experience. There's been several rape cases he's heard over his term, and that's an issue that we've taken to heart for our platform, and we're going to work hard to make some changes in that. Starting with Kelly's legislation regarding the addition of more precise and legal definitions of date rape and sexual assault in the student code. Thank you.
I think Mr. Bolton did a good job explaining that. Judicial court is something important and a necessary evil, and I would do my best to keep my role in there up and things running smooth in there. Thank you.
This is another question for the Jones slate. You've stated that if you're elected, you are planning to bring 20 people to each SGA meeting. Who are these 20 people, and what input are you hoping to get from them?
I believe we didn't say we would bring 20 people, but it is our goal to go out and randomly invite people, depending on the legal stipulations, just possibly maybe even run through the B-book and say, hey, you've never been to a meeting. What would you think about coming? I think a personal invitation makes people more invested in an organization, and I think if they have to say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't go, they might be more likely to think, well, you know, I'm not doing anything then. Maybe I should come. And those were mostly referring to like town meetings and things like that, also to the SGA meetings, but most specifically to the town meetings where we would have a specific topic that we want to discuss, and then we would get their input on that specific topic. And we can't guarantee that those people would come, but it's more than likely that if you go out of your way to ask those people, they're going to be more than likely to tell you they can do it.
Thank you. A rebuttal, please.
Senate is open to the public the way it is. Anybody's allowed to come. We have an $11,000 daily news budget, and this year we spent a lot of money on emphasizing what we were doing in Senate that week, who would be affected by the legislation, topics that were coming up. We spent a lot of that money on just emphasizing when we met that we were open to the public, inviting anyone, telling of services that we had, and a question about the town meetings. The town meetings were something that were very successful in the past. However, we've had attendance problems. I'd like to ask the Jones slate how they plan to get attendance problems when one town meeting had to be canceled this year because only 6 people RSVP'd when we sent invitations to over 30 campus groups. Thank you.
Would you care to respond to that question? A brief response, please.
Again, going back to our main point, we're going to go out there. We're not going to just sit back and let the students come to us. We're going to go out there and entice them. I mean, I think if they see us out there doing stuff and being amongst them, they'll be more than happy to come and like share the favor of coming to our things. I believe this was the town meetings was on your platform last year, and if my calculations are right, one town meeting has occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the next question. This is for the Davidson slate. What will the qualifications be for your proposed emergency loan program?
It's very simple. First, you have to show a Ball State student ID, and second of all, you have to show proof that you will be able to pay back the loan, either through proof of employment or through proof that your parents, or a check from your parents that shows that you do get payment from them, like weekly or biweekly. The way you pay the loan back is very simple. You have a month to pay it back, and if you don't pay it back, then we'll work with you to make sure you do. And if students refuse to pay the loan back, or if they leave Ball State's campus and say, forget you guys, we're not going to pay your money back, we have a promissory note already drafted, or that John Connors promised to draft for us. It works just like a lease agreement. And what it says is that if you do not pay your loan back, you will not only pay the $50, but you will pay for the cost of the loan and the cost of the lawyer. And so John said any lawyer would be happy to take that on because it's easy money for them. But basically, we're not going to try to go after students. The only time we ever come after students to get the money back was like I said before, 1, if they refuse to pay and say, I've got my $50 and there's nothing you can do about it. Or 2, if they leave Ball State's campus and refuse to pay after we've contacted them.
Thank you. A rebuttal, please.
I know some of the ideas that the Davidson slate are very admirable and really good ideas. This is not one of the things that we would go after if we were elected. Actually, this is one thing that we're kind of against. I'm not sure all the research that was put into it, but like just loaning out $50 to anyone, it could be a legal issue if they use it to purchase something illegally, and I don't know exactly how we can monitor that. But I don't think SGA wants to be liable for something that could be done illegally with that money.
Thank you. This is another open question. What role should SGA play in University Senate? We'll begin with a representative from the Jones slate.
Hey, everybody. The role that Senate, could you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
What role should SGA play in the University Senate?
I think we're there to represent the students again. I think representing students amongst ourselves is a very important part, but I think also, like, once we have the ideas, we need to take it to the university, take it to the administration, let them know that we're serious about our ideas. I know oftentimes that it usually dies at the University Senate or maybe the Board of Trustees. I think with a stronger support in the University Senate, some of those things can be passed farther along the line.
Thank you.
The role of the student government and student university senate is one, obviously, is to carry out the ideas and legislation that's passed through the student senate. Also, they're also responsible for appointing over 70 positions on different chairs, for different chairs and different sub-organizations of the university senate. Currently, this function has been going very well. We've passed one pretty major upcoming. We're pretty excited about the reduction of graduation hours from 126 to 120. This is legislation that was passed through Student Senate just recently, and is a pretty good chance for it to pass through University Senate because of student government's push and rallying for this cause.
This will be a question for the vice presidential candidates. What involvement in organizations has prepared you to run meetings using parliamentary procedure, and how much SGA experience do you have? We'll begin over at the Jones slate.
Well, I don't have any SGA experience. I'm not afraid to say that, and I believe that's an asset. I believe I'm going to bring a fresh perspective to the Senate and to the Executive Board. Parliamentary procedure is just that. It's procedure. It's easily learned and easily repeated. I don't think that's the issue here. I think the issue is being a good representation to the students. And I believe that I'm completely qualified for that job. I may have not done a lot of things on campus, but I am a manager of a band, and I play a lot of different roles for that. And I'm not one person who gets up. I'm not the person who gets up on stage. I'm the person who does the work in the background, and I am not afraid to work for this university. And that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
Mr. Bolton.
My experience in Student Senate, that legislation regarding the reduction of graduation credit hours was legislation written by me. Also wrote legislation regarding the 18-hour overload rule. I've been executive member of the Interfraternity Council, which dealt with parliamentary procedure on a regular basis. I'm also a former vice president of a social fraternity here on campus that also dealt with legislation and parliamentary procedure. So I'm fairly comfortable with those procedures. More importantly, when you are running Senate, in a way you kind of are on stage. You need to be someone who's in control and can communicate well. So experience on stage, if you will, is something that is, I would argue, quite essential for the role of vice president.
Once again, the phone number to call if you have a question for these candidates is 285-2727. Now, a question for the presidential candidates. What do you believe you have done to make a difference in SGA? We'll begin with Mr. Davidson.
The first thing I've done in the past year, I had an idea that I worked closely with Greg on that I think we're both pretty proud of, is we looked at the way we recruit students at Ball State, and the way it's always been done is somebody through the admission process has always went out, and basically a 30 to 40-year-old person went out and talked to students, tell them how great our university is. I took the issue personally, saying that if you take students back to either places they've came from or places they've been around in the same environment, and you tell them the positive experiences you've had, what we have to offer, the students can be a better recruiting tool than administrators can be. So that's one thing I'm proud of in the last year. And another thing is the change we made last year. It wasn't very popular to a lot of people, a lot of students. We got a lot of phone calls about adding 10 seats. There was a lot of discussion in Senate about it, but it's something we took on headstrong. It's something that we felt we could do, that we could make a difference, and we did it. And we listened to what people had to say. We changed the way we structured it, and we were happy with it, and we weren't afraid to shake the bush a little bit. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know Amy Lookabaugh, myself, and Jamey worked hard about going back to the high schools and trying to recruit students, trying to get a fresh perspective. Not only just recruit Ball State students, but also give them like a little taste of what, let them know what college is all about. I know the 10 seats that the Senate put together. That's something that I think we all had a part in, and also myself. Being the director of positive norming, I think going out a little bit, spreading a little sunshine, if I may, I think that just kind of helps. I think sometimes SGA needs just that. Thanks.
Thank you. A question now for the secretarial candidates. What role do you see yourself having in the cohesion of the executive department and of the student senate in general? Begin with Ms. McLean.
I think that it will be my best interest to see that people are returning to Senate and not bailing out and keeping in the role they've been elected by their hall or by the university off campus, and just to keep consistency with everyone to make sure that they are fulfilling their obligations. And so I will work with them, and I'm a very outgoing person. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody, so I'll just be as friendly and keep my personality the same.
Thank you.
I think that I have a lot to offer. I think I'm very good at keeping paperwork and being with Exact and when I take notes. And I think that I have a lot to say and I have a lot of input. I have a lot of experience, not just with this university, but with universities all over the nation. I'm currently on a listserv that serves universities to the region and to the nation that I will stay on even after I'm elected, so I can always have input from other schools. I know I don't exactly have too much of a voice in the actual Senate, but I think when I can actually have the chance to voice my opinions, I think I have a lot of good things to say. I think I'm usually a very concise person. I'm a good communicator, and hopefully I want to inspire people to try to remain at the meetings and hopefully let them know that we care that they're there personally and that it's not just a form letter or just a notification saying, "Why aren't you there?" It's someone saying, "We care, please come back."
Thank you. A question now which is being called in. This is directed at each slate. If both sides say that they want to be involved with the students, why do they not attend the town meetings in residence halls? That question is verbatim. We'll begin with the Jones slate.
As president of Tishner Train Hall, I do attend town meetings. Actually, tonight at 9:30, we have a town meeting in our hall. I'm not actually sure if I'll be able to attend that one, to be honest with you, because we're going out and trying to campaign and trying to spread the messages to others. I know, as a matter of fact, we're not able to talk to some hall councils because of town meetings. I know town meetings aren't necessarily always the most exciting thing in the world, and doesn't. I mean, it's hard to get people to go to. I know in my hall, we encourage people to go to the town meetings. And as for the SGA town meetings, I think that just going out and encouraging people to go to those, going out and giving personal invitations to those people will get people involved.
The way that SGA is set up, the on-campus caucus, the on-campus people that are on campus are very well represented. They have 18 representatives, one from each hall. Those people are at those hall council meetings, and they relay the messages back to Senate and to the executive board. That's the way the structure is set up, as in any structure. I mean, the way it's supposed to work out, the off-campus people represent the concerns of off-campus. We represent the concerns of all students, and the way we do that is by students who are directly connected in the inside there. They're required to attend those meetings as representatives in the bylaws, and they come back, and if they're doing their job, they report exactly what happened. There has been some communication breakdown, and that's that can be faulted to a lot of different things, but the structure is set up perfectly. I mean, 18 representatives from 18 halls. You know, there's no other way to no better way to get a voice from those town hall meetings or from those hall council meetings than to have a person who lives there attend those meetings and bring back the concerns.
A question now for the treasurers. What do you feel have been good money programs for SGA? There's also a second part to this question. What would you like to see money be more focused on in the upcoming year? Begin with Ms. Huber.
One money program that I think has been very good this year has been the bus trip. It's been very successful this year, and I think for the future, I would want to focus more on the co-sponsorship and make sure that we reach out to all different campus-wide events.
In response to that question, both my answers are the same. It's actually co-sponsorship. I think that's a very good idea. We co-sponsor Diversity Week as well as other activities and organizations that are sponsoring them. But we do need to up co-sponsorship just a little bit because we have plenty of money out there. If anybody ever needs it, as long as you follow the guidelines and the rules, then we can give it to you. Thank you.
This is another general question for each slate. What role should SGA take, if any, in regards to drinking abuse? We'll begin with the Jones slate.
We believe that binge drinking is a problem here on campus, and we believe that SGA should play a role in that. Something that we can do is lead by example and really go out there and show them what we're about and that this is a problem on campus and that we need to address this. I don't know what programs we might implement, but we will think a lot about that and talk to students and see what we can do. But leading by example is our best asset with that. Thank you.
When I made the quote, "We can only do what we can do," it was regarding how we can curb binge drinking. Binge drinking is obviously a problem, and leading by example is obviously, it's one thing you can do. However, finding a clear-cut solution to stop binge drinking on college campuses, that's something that people that are a lot smarter than me haven't been able to figure out. So our role can be to lead by example, set programs up such as designated driver cards at local establishments that will encourage people to be responsible when they drink. I think we should support responsible drinking and support stopping underage drinking. And one of the programs SGA is trying to implement right now is trying to stop local bars from advertising. I don't know if that's the way to do it when it's an establishment's money making. That's how they make their money. I think we should target more efforts at underage drinking. And I don't know if there's any way we can work with excise police, if there's any way we can get harder on carding at establishments in Muncie and in the village. However, like I said before, we can only do what we can do.
This is another general question. Do you feel that receiving monetary compensation is justification for the spending of students' money? We'll turn this question to the Davidson slate.
I believe it's justified. There are a lot of other campus jobs that receive money, and this is a campus job. It's supposed to be your required 6 office hours a week. It's pretty much a joke because if you're only in there for 6 hours a week, you're not doing your job. I've been in the office, 10 to 15 hours a week this year, and I do a lot of work, and a lot of times is a lot of the work, say, well, you're sitting there and you're not doing much. Well, you're being a resource to students, and a lot of students do come to the office asking questions, relevant questions. So I believe compensation, just like a resident assistant, just like a person that works in the food court, you're performing a job, and you deserve to be paid for it.
I can speak for this personally because I do receive a stipend from being in the Residence Hall Association. And really, when you compute how much you get paid compared to the hours that you put into the job, it really doesn't compare. And it's not a weekly kind of thing. It's just, it's there for you. And with the amount of work that people put in, we are working for the students. It is a job. We may not have a weekly paycheck, and we may not get recognition for all the work we do, but we are working hard, and we're out there for the students.
Another question addressed to both slates. How can you help legislation not only clear the Student Senate, but also to be passed by the University Senate in the future? Begin with the Jones slate this time.
I think, again, just by representing the students the best we can, that will get the legislation moving. Show our support when a good piece of legislation comes through. Try to correct legislations that might need some work. I know going to the University Senate, doing our best to represent the students there, standing up, being vocal in the University Senate, letting them know there's a group of students here. I think inviting other students when an important piece of legislation comes up, inviting other students to the University Senate meeting to show their support for it. And I also think that writing letters isn't out of the concept for that. have like students write letters. You give me the letters, I'll make copies for them and give them to every member of the University Senate or the Board of Trustees, just to get our message across. Thank you.
The same question to the Davidson slate.
I think currently the way it's set up, it works out pretty well. I know with the 18-hour bill, I was present today that it was put in front of the University Senate, and there were a lot of university senators that said, this bill's failed before, it's going to fail again. He's like, why should we even send it on, Mr. Worthen? It's not going to happen. And about 4 or 5 students stood up and said, listen, this is what we believe in. You guys believe in it too. You know, if this is something we feel strongly about, then it should be pushed on. And basically, it's expressing your concerns and having good concrete reasons for those concerns. And you're trying to convince people. You're trying to sell yourself. You're selling your ideas that students want to people. And if they're not going to like it, they don't like it. And that's what I've talked about, fighting winnable battles before. You go with what you go in there. You give it your best shot, and you give your best ideas, your best concise arguments. You have a list of arguments made out. You don't go in under-researched. And if people are going to like it, they'll like it. And if not, well, maybe you can change their mind. And I think we did this year with the 18-hour bill, as it only had 2 no votes when at first it was looked like it was going to be possibly defeated.
Once again, you're watching the 1999 Student Government Association slate debate on WCRH. The phone number to call if you have questions for the candidates is 285-2727. A question now for the Davidson slate. One of your platform issues is services. What services do you plan to promote?
A couple of services we plan to implement. I've talked about a couple before. One being the book exchange, where students can talk with other students to try to get better prices on used books. How it'll work is that students will post a book above what they get back from a local bookstore, but below what they would charge their used bookstore. So everyone, you're getting more money back, and you're buying it for cheaper. That's a service we'd like to provide, and it affects all students. Another service we'd like to provide, talked about earlier, is called The Source. Now, unlike the false claims by my other candidate there, it's going to be a screened process. Students will not be able to say anything they want. They will be screened, and they'll be objective. Students, I know, don't have access to student evaluations that are given now, but this will be an objective, several pros, several cons on each professor, the grades they received in the class, and general, how the professor teaches. Is he a PowerPoint professor? Is he a lecture? Is it a discussion class? And this useful information, this useful service to all students is something that's very easily implemented, and it would be very effective and useful for the student body here at Ball State. We're very proud of it.
A rebuttal, please.
The question was about Davidson's service projects. Being a computer science major, I know that building a web page and maintaining a web page is a huge task. I mean, building, it's okay if it just sits there, but maintaining is a huge task. I'm being a computer science major myself, knowing that if elected, I'll be busy representing the students. Also, I have time to tinker on the computer. I'm wondering how they plan to continue that web page as part of their platform.
You may have a brief response.
There's a couple things we'd like to say. First of all, we plan on having 2 directors of communication, trying to seek out computer science majors. That would be their job, and it would be very nice for these people to be able to tell people that yes, I've done this. It would be a great service to the students. 2, we have our own web page that we made in I think a day for the campaign website. It's not all that intricate, but we did show students that we know what we're talking about. And 3rd, we this year a brand new web page that we're very proud of that Marcus Wilson put up is on SGA's web page right now. And we had other universities call us asking if we could use how we made it and if they could use our ideas. So this is not feasible. I'm not going to say I'm going to sit down and do it because I don't know really much about computers myself. But the people that we would search to be our co-directors of communications, we'd like those people to be very computer literate and something they would take pride in. I don't think it's to be hard to find. Thanks.
Thank you. On to the next question. This is once again an open question. What role do you feel the university administration plays in implementing your ideas as student senators? We'll begin with the Davidson slate.
Well, they play a huge role in implementing our ideas. Some of the ideas that we have, basically, I don't want to say that university can't stop us, but they're programs that aren't going to be, they're not very conflictual. And those programs should be easily implemented. Some of our other ideas, such as legislative ideas, basically we give our recommendation and then they decide what they think of it. And like I said, we can keep speaking about it, we can keep trying to push it, but they do play a major role, and that's why every idea that an SGA enacts doesn't become law right away, which some people think it should be that way. But the university wants to uphold an image. The university has reasons for monetary reasons, and we have to respect those wishes because we do go here, and there were things that we knew coming in, but we just keep trying and work well with administrators. They're very open to people, and hopefully we can get some of our ideas across and have them work with us.
Well, I believe communication is something that's vital to this process. We need to talk with the administrators, and we need to stand up and let our voice be heard as students. We do go here, like Jamey said, and we are the students. We are the most vital part of this university, and I don't think our voice is being heard as much as it should by the administration, and I think they need to realize that. And we need to work together on good terms, and I think a lot of good communication would give us the right avenue so we're both happy with the end. Thank you.
A question now for both the presidential and vice presidential candidates. In your opinion, what role should directors play in the Senate with the new restructuring of the executive department? We'll begin with Mr. Jones.
Being the current director of positive norming, I take pride in the work I do. I think it is our directors' jobs to provide, be advisors to the elected staff. Also to put on programs of their own in whatever field they are. I know we have academic service. We won't have positive norming anymore, but multiculturalism and communication. I think the directors themselves should take some responsibility to put on these programs. But I mean, also advise the elected staff because, I mean, we can't know everything. I mean, we're just students, and we're trying to get through this just like everybody else.
Thank you.
Directors are not advisors for the committees, and they're not there to give advice to committees. Next year there'll only be one committee that has the same name as a Senate committee. What their role is completely different. Senate is legislative, and executive is just that. They execute. They execute legislation and they execute programs. With the programs we're talking about implementing, they'll be very busy implementing these programs. But as far as being advisors, no, they're completely different entities. It's just like the American national government set up. The legislative is a legislative, reactive, and proactive body that tries to solve problems through writing legislation. These are program-oriented. The executive is program-oriented and carrying out legislation. They're two separate entities. It's a judicial, an executive, and a legislative, and they're not at all intertwined. And that's the reason why Jesse and myself and the other directors worked on gaining a clearly defined separation between the three. And we're kind of going on the more for less type idea with the directors. If there's fewer directors and they have more clearly defined jobs, they'll get jobs done because they will know what they have to do. So they're not at all advisors. To keep that clear, they're not at all advisors. They don't tell senators what to do. They execute what the senators tell them to execute, and they execute what the president tells them to execute.
We'll now turn the same question to the vice presidential candidates. Mr. Sparks.
The directors on the executive board play an important part in their respective areas. They need to, I think they're medium ground between what the executive board is doing and the areas they represent. I believe these directors, they are one of the bigger parts of the executive board, and they're not seen as, and I think, sorry, excuse me, I think that needs to be stressed more. Thank you.
Finally, Mr. Bolton.
Again,
the question again is, what role should directors play in the Senate with the new restructuring of the executive department?
I think Jamey pretty much covered it. The way it's been reset, it's been streamlined for more efficiency. As I said, Jamey covered it. They're to carry out the wishes and legislation of the student body, and I think he covered it quite well. I would question the discrepancy in the other candidates' response, though.
Now a question for the Davidson slate. This is a question which has been called in. Why is the attendance at SGA town meetings so low, in your opinion?
It's something we don't have a direct answer to. We've sent out personal invitations, just like the Jones slate's planning on doing. One of their big issues is getting town meetings. It was something that worked 2 years ago with some of the police violence at the student center. Right after that, there was a town meeting. I think maybe the reason why the attendance wasn't so low is maybe we didn't have a town meeting after a big issue. 30 invitations were sent out. We spent lots of money on the town meetings, and the response was just low. At the first one, only 17 people showed up, and every large campus organization was invited. The second, we only had 6 RSVPs, so we had to cancel it. I think they're great ideas. I think they're a great opportunity for leaders to interact with each other. They work much like Cardinal Roundtables, and maybe that's why they didn't work out so well, because Cardinal Roundtables are a lot the same thing, even though there's administrators there. But I would like to ask the Jones slate to answer again the question I asked earlier: how will you raise attendance? I know you said that you want to have them, but I asked earlier how you'd raise attendance, and it was sort of walked around.
Your rebuttal, please.
Actually, I think one of the main reasons, just for the fact that I am a BSA exec, and it was a problem with us was communication, and it is definitely a huge problem because we're not all connected. Yes, an invitation is fine when you send it out. It might be sent out, I don't know how far ahead of time it was. We got it a week before it happened. And I know there's definitely miscommunication within BSA. And so one of the things that we want to stress, we're not only going to send out an invitation, we're going to call. And I guess to answer Jamey's question, one way to raise attendance would be to actually talk to the students and to not just invite them, like show them on a piece of paper. We care about the students. We're going to call them. We're going to tell them, hey, where are you? Why aren't you here? Or why don't you come here? Thank you.
Now a question which will be posed to each candidate. What do you feel is the most pressing issue on campus? We'll begin with Mr. Jones and work down the line. Just a brief response, please.
Definitely and without a doubt, student apathy. We feel that student apathy is the biggest problem facing our university today. We feel that is an issue because they feel disconnected from the university. They don't feel invested in Ball State. And that's exactly what we intend to do. We intend to go out there, go out, make individual contacts, each of us, and talk, get people involved by telling them, taking them places. But I mean, student apathy, and that's what our whole campaign is based around, is getting students involved, taking SGA to the students, and fighting student apathy.
Yes, Mr. Sparks.
Going with Greg here, it is apathy. That is the most pressing issue with this university. I believe that the student government isn't a service organization anymore, and that's why students feel detached from the university. If we can realize that we are servants, that all of us up here are going to be servants to the students, and we go out there and show the students this, they'll feel invested in the university, and they'll want to do more for this university because it will be their university. Right now, I don't think students feel like that. Thank you.
Going along with student apathy, I think student morale is also a big problem. I think some people are here because they think Ball State's a great college, they have a great program in my major, I want to be here. There's some people who think, well, it's close, and they grow to love it. And then there are a lot of people who are just here because they want to get an education, and it's nearby, and it's inexpensive. I think we really need to promote the fact that Ball State is a wonderful place to be. We need to promote the positive programs about it, we need to promote the positive aspects, and SGA needs to represent the students as best that they can so that they do feel involved, so that they do feel connected, and that they recognize all the wonderful things that Ball State has to offer them.
And to go along with all of that, and the main reason that I feel is probably unity and unity among Ball State students. We need to all come together, figure out what we think I think that's a pressing issue is the fact that we're not all together, period. And so we need to all come together and have ideas discussed and some of the opinions that we feel what's going on this campus, because we don't know at all what's going on and how each circle works and any type of unity. So I think that's a pressing issue also.
Now, Mr. Davidson.
If you ask that question to a lot of people, you're going to get a lot of different responses. There's different problems towards every person. SGA is not only a proactive but a reactive organization that are supposed to react to the problems when they're presented to them. This year, we've taken on one issue that's prevalent among all college campuses, and that's sexual assault. We think it's time that should no longer be swept under the table, and it should be we talked about co-sponsorship earlier. We're going to actively seek people to co-sponsor with, and make the connection that, hey, we're going to come to you and say this money's here. Would you want to put a program on with us? As far as the fact when Dustin said that SGA is no longer a service organization, we've gave solutions to problems of finances, to problems of academics, which all students face, and we've provided solutions in 4 to 5 valuable services. And I question the fact that if we're going to say it's no longer a student service or a service organization, then why hasn't there then these ideas that we have for services? Why are they putting them down, and why aren't they bringing their own services to the forefront?
Touch upon that as well. Obviously, sexual assault, as he said, is a very major issue of ours. But something that's also a relevant issue that we've tried to approach is that I think the general perception of students here at Ball State is that, student government really doesn't do anything for me. They feel detached. They feel like it's unimportant because, there's nothing really, in their opinion, anything for them to show for it. So when trying to figure out some programs and being a proactive body, we came up with programs that affect everyone. Everyone has financial problems. Everyone buys books. Everyone takes classes and would like to know more about professors. So I think being a proactive body and having ideas, programs, and things to try to correct the situation, which is the fact that student government doesn't do anything for me, is definitely the approach that we've taken. And I hope that's shown in our service organizations. Sitting back and hoping for discussion to come up amongst itself, I don't know how proactive that is.
One comment that does stick out in my mind is that SGA doesn't do anything for the students, and we do plan to change that through our services. I know there's been times where I've needed money for food, for gas to get home, and I didn't have that. So we are going to provide those opportunities so that students can get more services, and I think we are a service-oriented group.
One problem that I think is on this campus is obviously sexual assault, and I wrote legislation this year in SGA to add rape and date rape to the student code to help inform the students exactly what is rape and the legal ramifications of rape. We are also going to try and build on this by getting a speaker in the PEFWL classes to speak about safety on campus.
Thank you for those responses. Another general question, which will be responded to by one representative from each slate. How do you feel SGA is perceived on campus, and what do you plan to do to enhance SGA's image? We'll begin with the Davidson slate.
I think that question was just answered in a couple of our responses. I think in the past few years, the perception has been getting better. It always seems to get tarnished at election time because students like to do that. They like to write editorials and say that it doesn't do anything for me. So we've taken that. They took that issue to heart. We think that our platform has something that everyone can connect to. And if people want to say SGA if we're elected after our term's up and we do get these programs in, if people are going to say SGA doesn't do anything for me, it's not going to be the fault of the Student Government Association. It's going to be the fault of the student for not taking advantage of the opportunities they had and for not actively seeking to find out what they are. Again, we have to go out and we have to promote our ideas, and I think maybe one reason in the past where some ideas that have been good ideas, such as the book exchange a couple of years ago, why it didn't work so well is that it wasn't promoted quite well enough. And we've provided these services, we're going to promote them, and we think we're on the right track.
In one word, I think students don't feel that SGA does a lot for them. I think there are the students that think, I'm being represented. But I think if you go out there, the majority, let's say 16,000 plus, don't feel represented by SGA. Why don't they feel represented? I'd like to bring up some campaign issues from last year that the Owen and Davidson slate had. Town meetings, the Safe Ride system, Dollar Movie Night at Pruis, and Fall Fest. Out of those things, one town meeting happened, and I think students feel like they're being lied to. I think that's why we're being up here honest, saying, hey, we don't have all the answers, we don't have all the ideas, but we're offering a plan of action to go out and take SGA to the students, and that's how we plan to respond to this, going out to the students. And being out there, being visible to them, going to organizations, and if they don't see us, call us up. We'll make it. We're going to try to hit as many organizations as we can, as often as we can. That'll make us pretty busy people, but we're ready for the challenge.
You may have a brief response.
About the Safe Ride program, I don't think anybody's going to realize how hard me, Jesse, Jennifer Oglesby, a few other students worked on that program. The university told us we would never devise a plan that would work. We did devise a plan that would work, and then the university finally set us down after a lot of hard work and said, we're not going to do this because we don't think it's a part of, we don't want our student government to be promoting drinking. We didn't think we were promoting drinking. We thought we were promoting safety, and we thought that we were promoting a service that would cut down the drinking and driving on campus. So we did work for long and hard on that, and there's a lot of students that don't realize that, and I kind of take offense to it. Second of all, about the dollar movie nights, we offered the university program board $3,000 for dollar movies, and they never came for co-sponsorship. These ideas were worked hard. We worked hard at them. We tried our best. And then I guess that's where I got the idea of fighting the battles you can win. When the administration told us that Safe Ride's not going to happen. Thank you.
This is another question directed towards each slate. What can SGA do to increase the retention rates for freshmen? Begin with the Davidson slate.
Well, I know with the Lilly grant, the peer mentoring program has been started a couple years back. I actually was a peer mentor and was active in that program. It's a good program. It's a voice in the student it's in the classrooms from someone who's older and more wise, if you will, in the ways of college, to be hands-on and work with the students in an academic situation. I think the most important about student retention is getting students involved. I know that when you're involved in organizations here on campus and you feel like you belong to something, that's the key to retention, really. If you sit in your dorm room or you sit on an off-campus house and you really aren't really active in anyone, then you don't have a feel or a connection to Ball State. So we believe that getting students more involved in organizations through publicity, press releases, and even student government would be a great way to improve retention. Thanks.
Well, I think the first step is because the majority of the freshman students do live in the residence halls, the Freshman Connections program has made incredible strides. People have a resource who are there, and they also have people who are around them who are in their classes, people that they can do their homework with. I was in the Honors College, so I wasn't in Freshman Connections, but I did have honors students around me. I had people who were in my honors classes, people that I could discuss the professors with, and I also had people who were in the Honors College on my floor that could tell me about a professor that I was going to have the next semester. Another thing that housing is planning on doing is by separating wings by different departments, like the major sciences, like biology, chemistry, pre-med, those programs that are more difficult, so that those people have the same kind of environment, and also setting up a grouping for communications with TCOM and speech and journalism. There's also a chance that people who are off campus can have a chance to get involved by their major. We're trying to work with the faculty in the academic department so that they can encourage programs in people's majors so that students who are off campus have somewhere to go since they don't have the residence halls to rely on for community.
Thank you. This will be the final question of this evening. What have you done in the last year to benefit students? We'll begin with the Jones slate. One representative, please.
That's a tough question. I think you ask each of us, we'll give you a different answer. I know now, being up here, just trying to be as honest as I can, exposing myself, trying to make a difference here on campus. Through the last year, I know different things have happened. I mean, different things have affected me and touched my life. I think the friends I've made here on Ball State campus and the relationships that I've built here have just been very, it's helped me through this time, and I think it's helped them. I think friendship and activities have just been the soul of what this is all about, being invested and being a part of something.
Could I have the question again?
The question is, what have you done in the last year to benefit students?
I think the biggest impact I've had on students here has been involved with student government. I wrote legislation regarding the 18th hour bill to try to reduce costs of the extra 3 hours, and this was an attempt to try to get students to graduate within 4 years. I think currently only 33% of students here at Ball State graduate within 4 years. This was an attempt, though shot down by the Board of Trustees, to have students the ability to graduate within 4 years without paying the additional costs. Another piece of legislation that I wrote was regarding the reduction of the graduating credits from 126 to between 120 and 124. This is pretty popular and normal standard issue for other universities in the state, and this would also allow students to graduate within 4 years without taking the overload in summer courses or an 18-hour semester. Kelly, as I said earlier, and as she said several times, has wrote legislation regarding the sexual assault and the addition to the student code. And Jamey, also an active in student government, worked very hard with the addition of the organizational seats. That was a long, hard, controversial battle. Jamey fought hard for that with the current administration and got that very pivotal legislation to go through.
Thank you. The Jones slate now has 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Honesty, change, empowerment. Said that at the beginning, I'll say it again. I don't think we can stress it enough. We're up here, we're being honest with you. You ask us a question, we'll tell you the answer. We're not rehearsed. What they're offering you are ideas. What we're offering you is a plan of action. I hope you can see the differences in these two slates. We represent change and what comes along with change, the empowerment. If you think things are going fine the way it is, if you think you're represented, if you like the direction SGA is going right now, then by all means still go out and vote, but you shouldn't be voting for us. We represent the change and the empowerment that comes along with that. Thanks.
I think there's three things that we talk about when we close, and the first, we've said it earlier, is cohesiveness. When you're working together with an organization, when you're setting the track you're going to take, cohesiveness is important. This group's been together for quite a time. We've been together, we've been expressing our ideas, expressing what direction we want student government to take. We didn't just form 2 days ago. The second one is a clearly defined purpose. Our purpose is to make sure that no one will ever say SGA doesn't do anything for me again, because if they don't, it's not the fault of the Student Government Association. We do have a plan of action. Our plan of action is concrete programs that we've explained today, not words of character that we've been heard from the other slate, but concrete ideas that we can implement. And leaders with experience, you see it on our posters. It means a lot. Experience means a lot. The first 2 months of student government, a lot of times, is working on the changeover, working on, all right, we've got to set into our roles. When March 26th comes around, or March 24th, the day that the next slate takes office, we'll be ready to make some changes that day, because I've worked 6 feet from the president. These people have been involved in organizations that qualify them for the job they're about to take. So on March 1st and 2nd, you can say you're voting for change. There's a change here. There's a big change here. We're talking about ideas that benefit everyone, not certain groups. We didn't cater to certain groups when we came out to speak to people. We didn't say, this group, you're gonna benefit from our ideas. All students are gonna benefit from ideas. So March 1st and 2nd, make the right choice. Vote Davidson.
Thank you to all of the candidates. And thank you for watching the 1999 SGA presidential debate on Campus News 57. Thank you to our studio audience, the SGA Elections Board, and to our WCRH crew for making this debate a success. Voting can be done on Monday and Tuesday from 7:45 a.m. to 6:45 p.m. Voting locations will be at the Teachers College, the La Follette Concourse, and at Bracken Library. You can also vote via the VAX at the $ prompt by typing the word vote. Campus News 57 has the best coverage of the SGA elections. As always, you can tune in for live election coverage on March 2nd starting at 7 p.m. Thank you, good luck to all of the candidates, and have a good evening.